The convention is a national meeting of the American political parties. Remember, there are 50 states in the United States, so getting representatives from each state very quickly turns into a very large gathering. In July and August of a presidential election year, the two major American parties, that is the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, bring together delegations from each American state, plus local, state, and national party leaders to nominate the person who will run for the party in the presidential election. Traditionally, the party that does not hold the presidency meets first, and the party that currently holds the presidency meets last. So that's why we saw the Republicans meeting early in mid-July, and the Democrats will meet now in mid-August. Historically, and up until the 1960s, the delegates and the party leaders would really get down to business and negotiate all sorts of things, from who was going to be the presidential candidate to who would be running for vice president. This system based on party conventions started in 1868, and as I said, between 1868 and the 1960s, some conventions were really contested, to the point that sometimes the delegates had to keep voting multiple times because they couldn't reach a majority. The record is a mind-blowing 103 ballots that the Democrats needed to nominate their candidate in 1924, who ended up being John W. Davis in the 103rd vote attempt. Needless to say, parties understood very quickly that the more division there was within a party, and therefore the more ballots it took to nominate a candidate, the smaller was the chance to actually win the general election. Now, successful candidates have been nominated after multiple ballots as well, including in the Republican side, Garfield in 1880 after 36 ballots, and Harding in 1920 after 10 ballots. And in the Democratic side, Wilson after 46 ballots, and even Franklin Roosevelt in 1932 after 4 ballots. But overall, it's fair to say that especially after the convention started to be broadcasted live via radio and TV, the parties tried to use them as a show of unity and a show of force rather than a show of how contested they were. But even in 1960, for instance, when Kennedy won the Democratic nomination in the first ballot, Lyndon Johnson showed up at the convention hoping to snatch the presidential nomination. He was leading a Stop Kennedy movement that ultimately failed. And at the end, he was offered to join Kennedy as vice presidential candidate, and he accepted. In the 1970s, primary elections started to become the main way that state delegates are selected to go to the convention. In 1960, only 16 states held primaries. Today, 45 states select their delegates through primaries, and 5 hold caucuses, which we can think of as a multi-stage primary anyway. As a consequence, the conventions are typically just a celebration of the candidate who won the primaries and a way for the public to hear from candidates, other party members, party elders, such as former presidents and current and former prominent party figures, and so on. This year, with President Biden deciding not to run after winning essentially all the Democratic primaries, there was the chance that the Democratic convention could have become a traditional open convention or contested convention with multiple candidates. However, the party rallied very quickly behind Kamala Harris, with no other candidate actually throwing their name into the race to challenge her for the nomination. If you ask me why did no one challenge her, well, I would probably say that they still remember the 103 ballots in 1929, and that many people within the party was terrified of having that be televised live in 2024.